Hello, my name is Martin Rama. I am the Chief Economist for South Asia at the World Bank. And the news today is that South Asia is, again, the fastest growing region in the world. After a period of slowdown, mainly driven by India, we can see that the region is bouncing back and is now ahead of the other traditionally fast-growing region, East Asia and the Pacific. But not everything is rosy in this picture. It's not like we are seeing an acceleration of growth across the board, and exports in the region remain very weak despite a global economy that is strongly recovering by now. And the question is whether this kind of growth that the region is having will be enough to create jobs for all these young people who are reaching working age and aspiring to enter the workforce. Here, the difference between South Asia and East Asia is very interesting. In both regions, the fact that there is a young population entering into adult life means that the share of people of working age has increased relative to the total population. That's what people call the demographic dividend. But in East Asia, employment rates remain stable, even increased. In South Asia, as you can see, the increase in the working age population has been more than offset by a decrease in employment rates. And this is across the board. This is most of the countries. So what people call the demographic dividend could be just a foregone dividend. So are we facing jobless growth in South Asia? Answering this question is not easy, and it's not easy for two reasons. One concerns the measurement of employment, especially in countries like South Asia, where a lot of people do small jobs, change occupation, are doing one thing one day, something else the other day. The other question is more conceptual. Growth has two opposite effects on employment. In the short term, faster growth is higher demand for labor, is more jobs. But in the medium term, with growth, there is more prosperity, there is more income, kids can study longer, those who are ill do not need to be working, they can be supported. And so we see at these development levels that higher incomes are associated with lower employment. In this report, we generate data that is comparable on employment across countries over time, and we take into account these two opposite effects. And what we find first is that growth is not jobless in South Asia. South Asian countries have been creating large numbers of jobs. The concern is what kind of jobs. We see not enough people moving out of agriculture into manufacturing and services. We see relatively few jobs that are regular wage jobs where you have a paycheck at the end of the month and you know that the next month again you will have your paycheck. And of course, we don't see enough jobs for women. But with these estimates that we produce, the question we ask is then, what kind of growth will South Asia need to do better in terms of employment? And we use three benchmarks. One, the least ambitious, is to say, let's accept that with growth, there will be a decline in employment rates, that children will study longer, that people may stay at home more and work less. And as long as the decline is as in other developing countries, we're fine. Second, more ambitious, is to say, what will it take to keep the employment rates constant so that we miss less of that demographic dividend, of that larger number of people reaching working age? And of course, the most ambitious one, again thinking of East Asia, is what will it take for South Asia in 10 years to reach employment rates that are the ones we could predict for countries at this development level, basically employment rates that will involve many more women at work. And the answers are mixed. Attaining the least ambitious benchmark is feasible. The kind of growth rates that South Asia is having will do. Attaining the slightly more ambitious benchmark of stable employment rates requires fast growth, but is within reach for the region. But getting to the employment rates that other developing countries have in 1 decade will require growth rates that we have never seen. So something else needs to be done. And the message of this report is that priority should go to policies that make growth more prone to job creation.